My mother-in-law sent me some refrigerated chocolates for my birthday. The next day, she called and asked, "Did you like the chocolates?" I smiled on the phone and replied, "My husband ate them all." There was a long silence. Then she said in panic, "Really?" Then my husband called. "My name is Clara. I'm 32 years old, and I'm a fashion designer. My life revolves around my work, creating dresses that make women feel special. I have a small studio in the city center where I spend hours sketching and sewing. It's not an empire, but it's mine, and I love it. My life is good, mostly because of Noah, my husband. He's sweet, patient, and my best friend. We met 6 years ago at an art gallery, and we've been inseparable ever since. But not everything is perfect. My mother-in-law, Victoria, and my sister-in-law, Daniela, seem determined to make my life miserable. Noah inherited a large fortune from his father, a businessman who passed away 3 years ago. As an only child, Noah received the majority, while Victoria and Daniela got smaller portions. Since then, both believe Noah should spend his money on them. Victoria wanted a new mansion, and Daniela constantly asked for loans for her projects that never amount to anything. Noah always says no, and I support him. That money is his, and though we live comfortably, we don't squander it. But to my mother-in-law and sister-in-law, I'm the problem. They think a mere designer doesn't deserve Noah, and that I'm only after his fortune. Nothing could be further from the truth. This brings us to my birthday. A couple weeks ago, I turned 32 and decided to celebrate simply just with Noah. No fancy parties, just a quiet night at home. He cooked an incredible dinner, pasta with truffle sauce and homemade tiramisu. We spent the evening watching movies and laughing. It was perfect. Then Noah pulled out a box from the closet. It was elegant, wrapped in black paper with a gold ribbon. It had a card that read, "Happy Birthday, Clara," in Victoria's handwriting. "From your mom?" I asked, confused. Noah nodded. "She said she wanted to do something special for you." I laughed inwardly. Victoria, doing something for me? Impossible. That woman barely tolerates me. Every year, my birthday goes unnoticed by her, maybe a cold message at most. But I didn't want to ruin the moment. I opened the box, expecting something ridiculous. Instead, I found chocolates, not just any chocolates, but an exorbitantly expensive Swiss brand sold in exclusive stores. Each piece looked like a jewel. The box must have cost a fortune. Seriously, from her? I asked, incredulous. Noah shrugged. That's what she said. Maybe she wanted to patch things up. I didn't believe it for a second, but smiled and left the box on the dining table. Well, thanks, I guess. You know I don't eat chocolate. It upsets my stomach. It was true. Since I was a kid, chocolate has made me sick. Noah, on the other hand, is a fanatic. If there are sweets in the house, they disappear quickly. That night, we didn't think more about the chocolates. We finished dinner, watched another movie, and went to bed. It was one of those days that make you feel everything is right. The next morning, I got up early to head to the studio. I had a meeting with a client to show her sketches for my new dress collection. I put on a simple dress, grabbed my coffee, and went to the dining room to say goodbye to Noah. I found him sitting there, the chocolate box open. He'd already eaten several pieces and had a huge smile. "These are incredible," he said. "Offer me one." "Want one?" I shook my head. "No, thanks." "Enjoy them." I kissed him, grabbed my bag, and left. I didn't think much of the chocolates. They were just a gift, even if they came from Victoria. But something in the back of my mind made me uneasy. Why such an expensive gift out of nowhere? At the studio, I got to work. I was so focused that time flew by. Around noon, my phone rang. It was Victoria. I answered, expecting her usual cold tone, but she got straight to the point. "Clara, did you like the chocolates?" she asked without a greeting. I froze. Was she calling just for that? I smiled, knowing I could tease her a bit. "Oh, yeah, they were beautiful." But Noah ate them all. Didn't leave a single one. Silence. A long, heavy silence. I thought the call had dropped, but then she spoke, her voice trembling. "Seriously?" "Yeah," I said, confused. "Why?" She didn't answer. I heard a noise like something falling, and the call ended. I stared at the phone, baffled. What was that? Victoria never acted like that. Her voice sounded worried. Why? They were just chocolates. I shook my head, trying to brush it off. She was probably annoyed that Noah ate her special gift. Typical of her. I went back to my sketches, but couldn't focus. Something about that call left me uneasy. Why was she so nervous? I was about to call her back when my phone rang again. It was Noah. I answered, expecting a joke or a silly question, but his voice was different. Tense. "Clara," he said, breathing fast. "Come home now." My stomach dropped. "What's wrong? Are you okay?" "Just come," he insisted. "Please." The call ended. I looked at the phone, my heart racing. Something was wrong. Very wrong. The drive home was agony. My heart pounded so hard, I thought it would burst. Noah's words echoed in my head. "Come home now." His voice, full of urgency, kept me from thinking clearly. I drove like my life depended on it, swerving around cars and cursing every red light. My mind was a chaos of fear and confusion. What had happened? Was he hurt? Was there an accident? Victoria's call came back to me like a haunting echo. "Seriously?" she'd said. With a panic I couldn't ignore when I told her Noah ate the chocolates. Something was wrong, very wrong, and I felt it in every fiber of my being. I got home and parked haphazardly, nearly hitting the curb. My hands shook so much I could barely open the door. "Noah!" I shouted, running to the dining room. Then I saw him. Noah was lying on the floor, pale as death, motionless. The chocolate box was beside him, open, with some pieces scattered. I knelt next to him, my voice breaking as I shook him desperately. "Noah, wake up, please." His skin was cold, and his breathing was so faint I could barely notice it. I searched for his pulse, but my trembling fingers couldn't find it. I grabbed my phone and dialed emergency services, nearly dropping it from nerves. "I need an ambulance." I screamed when they answered. "My husband is unconscious. I don't know what happened. Come quick." I gave the address between sobs, my eyes never leaving Noah. He looked so fragile, so far from the strong, smiling man he was that morning. I tried to recall any first aid, anything that could help, but my mind was blank. All I could do was hold his hand, squeezing it tightly, and pray he'd hold on. The 5 minutes it took for the ambulance to arrive felt like an eternity. Every second felt like an hour, and fear grew in my chest like a dark shadow. When the paramedics finally burst in, I stepped aside, trembling from head to toe. They checked Noah quickly, put an oxygen mask on him, and loaded him onto a stretcher. One of them asked what happened, but I could barely form words. "I don't know," I said, my voice broken. "He was fine this morning. He ate some chocolates, then called me to come home. I found him like this." They didn't say anything, but exchanged a serious look that set my nerves on edge. As they took him to the ambulance, I heard a car screech to a stop outside. Before I could react, Victoria and Daniela stormed into the house like a hurricane. Victoria let out a gut-wrenching scream when she saw Noah on the stretcher, her hands covering her face. Daniela covered her mouth, tears streaming down her cheeks, but her grief didn't last long. The moment they saw me, their faces turned to pure fury. "What did you do to him?" Victoria screamed, pointing at me with a trembling finger. "My son, my poor son. Did you do something to him?" "I didn't do anything." I replied, stunned by the accusation. "I found him like this." "Liar," Daniela interrupted, stepping so close I could feel her rage. "You've always wanted his money. You poisoned him, didn't you?" Her words hit me like a punch to the chest. I was so shocked I couldn't respond. I wanted to follow the paramedics to be with Noah, but Victoria grabbed my arm tightly. "You're not getting away," she hissed, her eyes full of hatred. Before I could break free, 2 police officers entered the house. Someone, likely a neighbor, must have called them after seeing the ambulance and commotion. "What's going on here?" One of the officers, a middle-aged man with a serious expression, asked. Victoria didn't waste a second. "She did something to my son," she screamed, pointing at me with fury. "She poisoned him. She's always wanted his inheritance." She never loved him. She planned everything to take his money. That's not true. I shouted, feeling the world crumble around me. I love Noah. I found him like this. I don't know what happened. I pointed at Victoria, my voice trembling with rage. She called me this morning asking about the chocolates she sent. When I told her Noah ate them, she got nervous, like she knew something. Ask her. Victoria paled for a moment but quickly composed herself, wiping tears with a dramatic gesture. That's ridiculous, she said. I was just worried about my son, and she's the one who's always manipulated him. The officer raised a hand to silence us. Enough. We'll inspect the scene and take your statements. His partner began examining the dining room, his eyes landing on the chocolate box. 2 pieces remained intact inside. He looked at them suspiciously and placed them in an evidence bag. This could be important, he said. If there's anything off with these chocolates, we'll know soon. I want to explain everything. Victoria's call, her panicked tone. How strange it was that she sent me a gift after years of disdain. But before I could speak, Victoria attacked again. She's a murderer, she screamed at the officer. She's always hated our family and wanted to kill my son, to take everything. That's a lie. I responded on the verge of tears. I didn't do anything. Please, I just want to be with my husband. The officer looked at me coldly. I'm sorry, ma'am, but until we clear this up, no one's going anywhere. Both of you are coming to the station for statements. What? I said, incredulous. My husband is in the hospital. I need to be with him. If there's nothing against you, you'll see him later, he replied, unfazed. I felt trapped, like I was in a nightmare I couldn't wake from. Daniela watched from a corner, a mix of fear and satisfaction in her eyes. Victoria, meanwhile, played the part of grieving mother, crying and repeating that I was a monster. At the station, they took me to a small, cold room that smelled of dampness. A detective questioned me for what felt like hours. I told him everything. The chocolates, Victoria's call, her strange reaction when I said Noah ate them. I insisted I had nothing to do with what happened to Noah, but the detective didn't seem convinced. You're his wife, he said, crossing his arms. If something happens to him, you inherit everything. That's a strong motive. I don't care about the money. I shouted, frustrated to the point of tears. I just want my husband to be okay. After a while, they left me alone in the room. I had no idea what was happening with Noah, and the uncertainty was killing me. I couldn't stop picturing him in a hospital bed, fighting for his life, while I was trapped there, unable to help. Hours later, the detective returned with news. They'd analyzed the chocolates and found 2 substances, methanol and diazepam. Methanol was a deadly poison, and diazepam was a strong sedative. Together, they were a lethal combination. Someone put those substances in there on purpose, the detective said. This is an attempted murder. My world stopped. Someone had tried to kill Noah. I looked at the detective, tears in my eyes. It wasn't me. I whispered, please believe me. But they didn't. As Noah's wife, I was the main suspect. They detained me while letting Victoria go, saying there wasn't enough evidence against her. They took me to a cell, a cold, gray place that smelled of disinfectant. I was alone, my head full of questions. Why was Victoria so nervous about the chocolates? Did she know what was in them, or was it just a coincidence? That night, I couldn't sleep. All I could think about was Noah, wondering if he was alive, if he was suffering. The next day, an officer brought news that shattered me. Noah had slipped into a coma. The substances had damaged his body, and the doctors didn't know if he'd wake up. I collapsed to the floor, sobbing. My husband, my best friend, was fighting for his life, and I couldn't be with him. I felt powerless, trapped in a cell while the world moved on without me. Through tears, I begged the officer to investigate Victoria. She knows something, I said, my voice trembling. Please check her phone, her messages, anything. It's not a coincidence that she called me like that and freaked out when I said Noah ate the chocolates. The officer didn't promise anything, but said they'd keep it in mind. I spent another night in the cell, praying for Noah, for myself, for some evidence to prove my innocence. On the second day, a detective came to my cell and told me I could go. They'd found evidence against Victoria. The same day I was released, my world was still shaking. The news that they'd found evidence against Victoria gave me momentary relief. But I couldn't stop thinking about Noah, in a coma, fighting for his life. I was exhausted, my heart in pieces, but I had no time to break down. That same day, an officer informed me that Victoria would be tried for attempted murder, poisoning with intent to harm, and possible second-degree homicide. They warned me I'd have to attend the trial to testify against her. The thought of facing her in a room full of strangers made my nerves fray, but I'd do it for Noah, for the truth. The days leading up to the trial were a whirlwind. I barely slept, torn between hospital visits to be near Noah and meetings with my lawyer, who prepared me for what was coming. Every time I saw Noah in that bed, hooked up to machines, my chest tightened. He was pale, motionless, but still looked like the man I loved. I talked to him, held his hand, promised him everything would be okay, even though I wasn't sure I believed it. My only comfort was knowing Victoria would face the consequences of what she did. The trial came quickly. I wore a simple but elegant dress I designed myself, like armor. I wanted to show the world I wasn't the gold digger Victoria, and Daniela claimed I was. When I entered the courtroom, I felt every eye on me. The judge sat sternly, the lawyers prepared, and Victoria sat with her head held high, as if she had nothing to be ashamed of. Daniela, ready to testify in her favor, shot me a venomous look. I sat down, trying to stay calm, but my heart pounded. The trial began with the prosecution presenting the case. They explained how the chocolates Victoria sent contained methanol and diazepam, lethal substances, and showed lab results and the paramedics' testimony. Then Victoria's lawyer, a woman with a sharp voice, took the floor. Her strategy was clear from the start. "Blame me. It's true my client sent the chocolates," she said, looking at the jury, "but not the substances found in them. The accused here is Clara, the victim's wife. Her husband has a considerable fortune, and as the heir, she had the perfect motive to poison him. Clara knew Noah would eat the chocolates and seized the opportunity to frame my client." The jury murmured, and I felt a knot in my stomach. When Victoria took the stand, she repeated the same story. "I always knew Clara didn't love my son," she said with fake tears. "She was only with him for his money. She's a gold digger. I just want to make peace with that gift. But she used it to attack him. Her words were poison, each one stinging." Daniela took the stand and backed her mother, saying I'd always been cold to the family, that I never fit in. It was hard to breathe, but my lawyer had warned me they'd try this. He told me to keep my head high, that the truth was on my side. When it was my defense's turn, my lawyer, a calm but firm man, presented evidence of my love for Noah. He showed photos of us together, laughing on trips, celebrating anniversaries. He played messages we'd sent each other, full of love and plans for future. One message, which nearly brought me to tears, was Noah talking about how he wanted our future child to have my eyes. There was a video of us at home, dancing ridiculously in the kitchen, laughing like the world was ours. Each piece of evidence was a reminder of what Victoria had tried to destroy. Then my lawyer moved to the evidence against Victoria. After investigating the crime scene in her home, the police had found damning evidence. First, they found Victoria's fingerprints on the chocolate box, not just on the outside, but suspiciously on the inside, as if she'd handled the pieces. Second, a security camera in her neighborhood showed her leaving her house with the box, visibly nervous, the day she sent it. Third, they found messages Victoria had sent me months earlier, insulting me, calling me a gold digger, and saying the money Noah didn't spend on me belonged to her. In one, she even threatened me, saying I'd pay for coming between her family. But the most damning evidence came last. During a search of Victoria's home, the police found a hidden drawer in her study. Inside were vials of methanol and diazepam, the same substances in the chocolates. The jury fell silent, and Victoria, for the first time, looked frozen. Her face, once confident, was now pale, her hands trembling. Victoria's lawyer tried to argue that the evidence was circumstantial, that someone could have planted the substances in her home, but her words sounded desperate. The jury didn't seem convinced, and the judge, with a stern expression, listened intently. When it was my turn to testify, I spoke from the heart. I told him how I found Noah, how I called the ambulance, how Victoria accused me without reason. I explained her call, her panic when I said Noah ate the chocolates. I would never hurt my husband, I said, looking at the jury. He's the love of my life. Victoria never accepted our relationship, and now I know she was willing to do anything to get me out of the way. The trial ended after hours of arguments. The jury retired to deliberate, and I waited, my stomach in knots, praying for justice. When they returned, the judge called for silence. The jury spokesperson stood and announced a verdict. Victoria was guilty of attempted murder, poisoning with intent to harm, and possible second-degree homicide. The judge, unwavering, sentenced her to 30 years in prison. Victoria collapsed, screaming that it was a mistake, but the officers escorted her out of the courtroom. Daniela, crying, didn't dare look at me. I felt a weight lift from my shoulders, but not joy. Justice had been served, but my husband was still in the hospital, trapped in a coma. I left the courtroom and went straight to the hospital. I ran through the halls until I reached Noah's room. There he was, motionless, connected to softly humming machines. I sat beside him, took his hand, and let the tears fall. Finally, love, I whispered, your mother got what she deserved, but I need you to wake up. I want to continue our life together. I stayed there, staring at his face, hoping for a miracle. I knew it could take time, but I wouldn't lose hope.